Let's see how we can set up MongoDB with Spring Boot and use its various features, from indexing to aggregations. The demo I will use is available on GitHub. The link is in the description. The article with copy and paste code snippets is also in the description. MongoDB is a document database. Instead of tables, you store data in a JSON-like documents. It's great for scalability and flexible data-heavy apps like operational intelligence, real-time analytics, IoT, and e-commerce. But we don't want to leave the Spring programming model, right? So we use Spring Data MongoDB. It combines MongoDB features with the Spring-style repositories and auto-configuration. In this guide, we built a NeuroWatch. It's a cyberpunk-themed application because, yes, I'm that old, that tracks civilians, their implanted cyberware, and implant monitoring logs. It also aggregates health indicators over time. For this tutorial, you will need Spring Boot 4 or at least Spring Boot 3, JDK 25 or at least 17, which is a baseline for Spring Boot 3. I'm using Liberica JDK recommended by Spring. Also, you will need an IDE. I'm using IntelliJ IDE and Docker and Docker Compose. Let's create a new Spring Boot project with the Spring Initializer. We will need dependencies on Docker Compose, Spring Data MongoDB, and Testcontainers. Add the Enable Mongo Repositories annotation to your main application class. Now we need a MongoDB running. We are going to spin up a Mongo container via Docker Compose. You can see the Docker Compose file on the screen. I'm not going to describe it in detail, but you can clone the repo and it's there. In the application properties, we set up Spring Data MongoDB host, port, and URL. Also, we enable automatic index creation. Then you simply run Docker Compose up -d, and our database is up and running and ready to receive our data. In SQL, you design a schema first, then map relationships with foreign keys and joins. MongoDB stores entities in JSON-like documents. You can nest arrays and subdocuments in the documents without first creating a rigid schema. Accompanying information is stored together in one document and can be indexed for rapid access. There's no need to predetermine the database schema. MongoDB does that for us. But if you want to enable DB migrations like with Flyway or Liquibase, MongoDB also supports it with Mongo. In NeuroWatch, we use two collections, one for civilians and another for implant monitoring logs. Implants themselves are stored within the civilian document. So we embed the implant class, but it's not a separate collection. To define some class as the MongoDB document, you annotate it with the document annotation. Also, it's essential to add the ID annotation for the primary key. In MongoDB, ID should have the type string, object ID, or UID. If you want a custom field name, you can use the field annotation. Now, as I said, the implant class is not a MongoDB document, and it's embedded into the civilian document. But of course, you can embed documents in other documents. For instance, if you wanted to make the implant a separate collection for some reason, we would annotate it with a document and then add the list of implants to this civilian document as usual. There's another approach. Instead of embedding the document, you can reference it with the dbref annotation. This annotation will be eagerly resolved. Also, you can use the document reference annotation instead of the dbref. It helps you to define more flexibly which fields of the embedded document should be loaded. But be careful with embedding documents or referencing them. Updating deeply nested documents requires rewriting the whole document. Plus, eagerly fetched documents with the dbref can affect the application performance. On the other hand, lazy loading with dbref can complicate debugging. Okay, now let's look at some more advanced annotations. Let's start with indexing. MongoDB indices are data structures that speed up querying. They are like book indices. Indices are created for frequently queried fields, such as national ID in civilian. MongoDB supports compound, hashed, geospatial, and text indices. Compound indices use criteria on multiple fields. They are defined at the class level. For example, in implant monitoring log, it builds the index over implant serial number ascending and timestamp descending. Geospatial indexing is where it gets spicy. These indices help you to find documents within a given distance. For example, we can add the point field to the implant monitoring log and use the geospatial index annotation with geo to the sphere. Point is a class from Spring Framework data geo package. It represents longitude and latitude. Geospatial index annotation creates an index of type geo-2D sphere. It enforces the usage of near sphere operator when fetching the data. This operator uses the Earth curvature to calculate the distance. MongoDB also provides auditing support with created date and last modified date annotations. Okay, let's move on to repositories. Spring Data MongoDB gives you a Mongo repository. It supports CRUD, paging and sorting, and query by example. When you create repository interfaces for civilian and implant monitoring log, Spring generates basic CRUD methods automatically. In addition to default CRUD methods, we can perform query by convention. It means that you name the methods in the pattern like find by national ID, and Spring turns that into MongoDB queries. Same idea for logs. We can find logs by serial number and a timestamp after date, or between two dates. Let's look at the Geospatial query method example. The near keyword in the method enables you to fetch all implant monitoring logs within the specified distance and point. Of course, this method is for demonstration purposes only. There could be thousands of logs, and it could seriously affect the performance if you would fetch all of them. So, of course, you should limit the number of fetched logs, like adding the time window or any other filter. CRUD is pretty straightforward and everything that we are used to. There's only one note on saving the entities. For saving, MongoDB uses save and insert. Save inserts or updates depending on whether ID exists. Insert only creates a new document and fails if it already exists. So it protects you from accidental overwrites. Okay, sometimes the method naming approach is not enough. You may want to query array elements, create complex filters, or avoid unreadable method names. Option 1 is to use the query annotation. For instance, we want to find all civilians with implants whose lot number is greater than or equal to n. And here's how to do that with the query annotation. We use the lm, match, and GTE operators. It roughly translates to find an element that matches and a greater than or equal to. Option 2 is to use the MongoTemplate. It is an abstraction layer that helps you to create queries programmatically using query and criteria objects. For that, you need a custom repository interface and its implementation with the impl suffix. Then you build a criteria like implant a lot number greater or equal and run MongoTemplate find. You can also write type-safe queries, for example, with a fluent Mongo wrapper. MongoDB projections mean retrieving only the specific fields. It reduces network traffic and helps to prevent accidental data exposure. For example, we want to query all civilians but return only legal name and national ID. The rest of the fields become null in the mapped objects. You can do that with query annotation. A more sophisticated approach is to use interface-based projections. In this case, you specify the interface with all the fields that you need, and Spring will automatically map the query results to this interface. And then you simply define a method in the civilian repository and specify civilian summary, which is our projection, as the return type. Note that interface-based projections are not the same as DTOs. DTOs are classes that you write manually with the fields, constructors, and maybe even custom logic. Interface-based projections are only classes with the getter fields. But we can combine projections and DTOs. Suppose we want to gather statistics on implant performance. For that, we must calculate the average indicators for power usage, CPU usage, and neural latency, and this over a given period of time. For that, we can create DTO record monitoring stats for aggregated averages. We can now use it to hold the data we've fetched and calculated. But to perform such a task, we need to master MongoDB aggregations. Aggregations are the MongoDB's way to run calculations on the database side to filter, group, or transform data. This reduces data transfer and client-side computations. To use aggregations, we need to create the aggregation pipeline. Aggregation pipeline is the series of operations performed on the data. You can create aggregation pipelines declaratively in the repository using the query annotation or programmatically using MongoTemplate and criteria. So, once again, what is our use case? We need to filter implant monitoring logs by serial number and time window. Then we need to calculate the average of certain fields. Then we need to create a projection that contains only 4 fields: implant, serial number, and calculated metrics. and then we must return the monitoring stats object from the database. First, let's prepare the grounds. We need to create the implant monitoring log repository custom interface with custom method aggregate stats. The implant monitoring log repository will extend the new interface, and then we follow the familiar logic. We create the implant monitoring log repository custom impl class, and there we inject the MongoTemplate bean. Now it's time to actually write the aggregate stats method. For filtering the logs, we need the match operation class that will hold the given criteria. To calculate the average, we need the group operation class. Here, we group logs by serial number, calculate the average for each group, and give a new name to each resulting method. Next, we need the projection operation class. It renames the ID to implant serial number and rounds each average metric to 2 decimals. Finally, we combine all 3 stages into a single aggregation pipeline and feed it to MongoTemplate. MongoTemplate executes this pipeline against the implant logs collection and returns the monitoring stats object. And here's the full method implementation. It's testing time! We will use the data Mongo test annotation for data layer testing. It loads Mongo-specific beans such as repositories and documents, but not the whole application context. By default, tests annotated with the data Mongo test use the embedded Mongo database. But we will override this behavior and use a Dockerized MongoDB database. We will spin it up with the help of Testcontainers. We have already added the Testcontainer support into the dependencies, and now we also need to add the dependency on JUnit. In the test class, we use the Testcontainers annotation. We create a MongoDB container and use the service connection annotation, so Spring can wire Mongo beans to the container. For isolation, we'll use the method annotated with before each to create the test data, and also the method after each to drop the collection. In this case, we added the data manually. Another approach is to create a JSON file with all required data and add the Jackson to repository populator factory bean to the config file. This bean will populate the database with the data we provided when the container starts. And finally, we can use the familiar flow to write the tests. That was a quick introduction to using Spring Data MongoDB. If you found this video useful, don't forget to like it, subscribe to our channel for more videos like this, and until next time!